This video is going to show you how to create what's known as a Dreamweaver template from your HTML file. Now, I'm going to use this sample that I've been working with recently to start out with, just to illustrate the concept, and then I'm going to show you it actually implemented in a site. The reason you use Dreamweaver templates is so you have a master file that you base all of your pages off of. You have your master CSS as well, but you have a master file that you create all of your pages off of, and so there are parts of this master file that would not be editable on every single page, so it helps add to consistency throughout the site when you have this master that everything's based off of. Depending on your layout will depend on how much of your site is locked down, that can only be edited from the master file, and how much of your site is flexible. And some of you, depending on your layout, will have very little of it that will be non-editable, and some of you will have lots of it that will be non-editable. It just all depends on how consistent your design is from page to page to page. Now, the first thing I want to point out with all this is it's best if you are working with an HTML file that is a layout. It is best if you don't, and you're about to create a Dreamweaver template, it's best if you don't name it index.html. Even if this is my home page, I will eventually create an HTML file that is based off of my template that's named index.html. So if I have a file like here and I've named it index.html, then I create a template and then I create an HTML file for that, it's going to confuse me. So that's why I like to take this file that I'm going to just rename it this way so you can see all of the everything I'm doing. I'd like to take the file that's eventually going to become a Dreamweaver template, and I like to name it layout.html. Okay, so now layout.html, this is how every page is going to look, and I've decided we're going to pretend that this information on the right hand side is not allowed to change from page to page to page in my site. So that's going to be non-editable, and this will be editable. Every Dreamweaver template has to have editable regions in addition to the non-editable areas, or you can't use it. Because if you base a page off of it and it does not have an editable region, there's nothing that can change. So you will only, for the 5-page website assignment, you will only need one template for the whole site. For larger sites, you might have multiple templates depending on what's going on. And even if you end up not working in Dreamweaver somewhere, but you start working on a modular basis with content management systems, other website creation tools such as, similar to Dreamweaver, you are going to run into this type of workflow. So you need to start thinking about your designs from that standpoint, and you need to think about like not just your designs, but how you can work with things to be as modular as possible, to be as reusable as possible, so that it cuts down on your workflow as much as you can when you're building things, so it makes a quicker build, and it also makes a more consistent user experience for the people visiting your site. Things don't have to change from page to page to page. So let's look at this here. I'm going to turn layout.html into a Dreamweaver template site. So I have it open. I have my site defined. This is very important. File, save as template. And I need to make sure I have the proper site selected. Super, super important. And I'm going to call this, I'll just probably save it as layout. And here's why. When I hit save, and then I say yes to update links, I'm going to refresh, and look at what happens here. Dreamweaver creates a template folder. The only thing that gets saved in the template folder is the actual Dreamweaver template file. The actual Dreamweaver template file is saved as layout. Well, in my case, I named it layout. The extension to it is .dwt. Okay, so that I do not save all of my HTML files there. Now, because I went ahead and named my my original file layout.html, I know that that's not an actual page on the site. I will never touch it. It is safe to say you could delete it if you wanted to. I usually keep it around for reference in case I need it, but you can delete it. It's not connected to the template at all. So here we have this layout.dwt file, and if I close it right now, Dreamweaver says, hey, the template doesn't have any editable regions. Are you sure you want to continue? And we say, sure, I want to continue. Well, here's what happens. I'm going to show you how to create a page based off your template and what happens if you don't have an editable region. File, New, I'm going to say Page from Template, and I'm going to choose Art 190 Fall 2012. That's the site that I'm working in. It matches right here. And then I'm going to choose the template that I want to work with. In this case, there's only one, and I named it Layout. So you might, if you had multiple, and I click Create, if you had multiple templates, you might have a heavy text content template, you might have a products template, you might have a products detail template, all sorts of stuff. But in this case, we just have a 5-page site we're working on, so we just have one template. Okay, so with that, we can now work with this page because we created it based off a template. Now, how do I know it was based off a template? And this is very, very important. You need to check this a lot. Is that in the upper right-hand corner, if I scroll all the way up and all the way over, I should see that it says template : layout. And I'm going to go ahead and say, and if it is, that's the template it's based off of, and you know everything's fine. Now I'm going to save this, save as, or actually I think I can just do save, file, save, and I'm going to make sure it goes in my site folder, not my templates folder. This is an HTML file based off of a template file. My HTML file gets put into my root directory or somewhere else, but some other subfolder if you're organizing things in a certain way, but not my template folder. No, no, no. Okay, so I'm going to call this index because this page, when I styled it, I was basing it off of my home page, so I'm going to call it index. And now over here in my root folder, I see I have index, and I saved it as index, and it is based off my template. There's also that layout. I'll go ahead, just for the sake of deleting it, I'll delete it. So now we just have index sitting there, and we still have that layout.dwt file. But remember, I didn't create any editable regions, right? So I cannot edit. You see that little no sign? Do not do this sign? That means I cannot edit a darn thing because I don't have any editable regions. So I'm going to open up my template file, which is in my template folder. Double click on it, and now I'm going to say that the right hand side is going to stay the same on every single page, but this div, this section, which section do I have? Hold on a minute, I need to make sure I have example art box, and that should be, example box holds the entire layout. I don't want the entire layout. In this case, I have an article that I've called left article, so which you would normally not call it that, but every page is going to have a left article is what I'm saying. So this, and this will be editable, okay, but the right article doesn't become editable. Now, what would you make editable on your site? Well, you might have a section that's editable. You might have a div that's editable. There's a lot of different things that might be editable. I could go all the way out and make the whole darn site editable, which you wouldn't want to do because you don't want your nav editable normally. I don't want example box editable because I don't want this right hand side to change from page to page. I just want this left hand side, and in my case it happens to be an article. In your case it will probably be a section, okay, or even a div that holds a section. That's possible as well too. So I'm going to say that I want this to be editable by clicking it, and that's going to cover this whole area. And I'm going to go over to my right hand side here, and let me just workspace layout, reset designer, and we'll go ahead and put this back on design view. And then over here we have this insert menu, And from there, on the Insert menu under Common, I have Template Editable Region. And I will call this Left Content. Okay, so with that being left content, then I can, and this is all in my Dreamweaver template file, I can save. And I can, when I save, what Dreamweaver then says is, oh, she's changed something in her Dreamweaver template file. What pages in the site are based off of this particular file? I'm going to ask her if she wants to update them, which I do because I've just made something an editable region. I want all the pages based off of that to know. So I'm going to click Update and close. And I'm going to close my Dreamweaver template file. I'm going to and hold on, I want to point out something to you real quick before I go on. Over here, when I did this, I chose templates and editable region. You may not have that selected at first, so you may have to choose from this drop-down menu. And then once you choose editable region, it usually stays up as the first option. Just as a side note. Okay. So we're going to go into index now, and we can see over here I still cannot edit it. It's still based off the template. But over on the right hand side, now I can put whatever text I want in here. Hold on. There we go. All right, and so I've made a change here. It will only affect the page, this page, that's it. And then I'm going to create another page, new, page from template, site, the proper template, create, and I will call this about. And here I'm going to choose this word, and then and so it has its own unique text. And then I'm going to go back to my template and say, oh, well, you know what? Over here, I would like to change this over here, and I want this change to be reflected on all pages based off this template. So instead, I'm going to instead of what it has over here, I'm going to turn this into a nav, and I'm going to make it this big white text, and I'm going to say about. And home, and I'm going to choose the word home and link it to index, and choose the word about and link it to about. Now I don't have styles created for these. I usually link everything in my template after I've created the pages instead of trying to do that ahead of time. And so you know, I create my Dreamweaver template file, I make my index, I make my about, and I might just make them and then go back later and actually put the real content in, but I'll go ahead and make them and open up my template file and link to them like I just did. Now I'm going to save, and it should ask me, do you want to update all files based off of this on this template? And there's index and about, and I say yes please. I'm going to close, and now when I open up index, I can see that my text is still there, but the stuff in the non-editable area has been updated. So everybody's consistent. Now, this is very, very important. Say I decide, well, I am going to change something in my template in the editable area. I'm going to make this word say happy. And I save my file, and this is an editable area. I'm going to update and close. And now, what do you think happens? I changed something in the editable area. If I go to the home page, it did not update. If I go to the about page, it did not update. Why? Because I modified something in an editable area in the template. As far as Dreamweaver is concerned, this editable area is not something that it needs to change on these other pages because it assumes this page has unique content in its editable area. This page has unique content. So it doesn't want to overwrite something in here on these pages. It assumes that these pages have what they're supposed to have because that's their editable area that's unique to them. So it's not going to impose what's on this template in an editable area on those other pages. Now, if I create a new page off of the template, of course it has whatever the template currently has in it in that editable area. So if I want to add more than one editable area, I can. And if I want to remove an editable area, I can also do that. I just click on the item and I go to Modify and I go to Templates and I can, to remove an editable area, I can go to, where is it? There should be something about remove template markup. Oh, and that's because I have to, silly me, I have to be in my template to do it. Okay, so I'm in my template file. I click on my editable region, modify template, and remove template markup. Now, if I were to click this, that's fine, but I have two pages out here that had an editable region. So if I save this file, it says this template doesn't have any editable regions. Are you sure you want to do that? And I'm going to say yes. And then it says update all files based off this, and I say yes. And then it says, hey, you have this editable region. It was in the template and it's referenced in these two files. What do you want me to do with it in these two files? What the easiest thing to do is to say the thing that was called left content, the editable region, I'm going to send it nowhere. And then I say use for all, and I say OK, and I close. And now we have removed that editable area from our two pages, and now whatever we had there is gone, and it matches our template. So you don't want to do that usually, but sometimes, usually what that little move is good for is if you made something editable and you realize, oh wait, this has to be the same, like your nav, and you just accidentally did that. Well, that's how you undo that accident. But once you've been working on your pages and you've been working with those editable areas from page to page, you generally don't want to undo that. So next, let me see if I can pull up a site for you that is based off of templates. So I'm going to go to this site, and we can see here that we have a contact page, and it's based off of template layout. The header in this instance is editable. The nav is not, then the subhead area is editable. The content area is editable. And that's how it'll be on every single page. Header is editable, subhead is, and content is. And on. All of them do this. Okay? So they can have unique content up here, unique slide if we wish, and then this is editable and that is editable. The template for this looks just like what you guys are seeing here, except whatever we did at the time. Okay, we have this thing here, which was an editable area, and then we have header, and then we have subhead, and content. We had this as part of content a while ago, so it's not down here, and that's because there was an edit we had in January for them where we put this in. So that's just some weird little thing in there that we had for a little bit. But all the other pages weren't affected by it because it was an editable area. So yeah, that's it. This is not editable. The header is, the content is, and the subhead is on this site. And it's just a very simple structure. It keeps everything consistent. And between that and your CSS, you just You try to make things as similar as possible from page to page to page, and this system works out really, really well. And it's how content management systems are going to work for you too. There'll be things you can edit from page to page and make unique, and there's things that you can't. It may not be called this, but this is the principle of how most websites are built, whether it's Dreamweaver or whether it's something else. You have editable areas and you have non-editable areas. You have areas that are unique from page to page. You have areas that are not unique from page to page.